my name is Agata and today I'm going to be making some blueberry pierogi. Really simple ingredients. We got blueberries for the inside, eggs, sour cream, flour, salt, and baking soda for the dough. Let's get started. I learned this recipe a few years ago because my grandma lives in Poland. Obviously with the pandemic we can't really visit her, but we tried to call her every week, make sure she's doing okay, make sure she's safe. So I called her because I wanted all sorts of recipes because I have a family and I have friends that are from different countries and I wanted to kind of make it an international little book of recipes. Not for sale, just for myself. So I called my grandma up one day and she happily shared it. Now I have it written down and now I get to finally cook it. It feels good. Yeah. I told my mom I was doing this and she was like, you should bring some home. I know this looks really weird, but it'll work out, I promise. Like, who beats eggs with sour cream? Polish people. So here I put 3 whole eggs and 8 ounces of sour cream. This is gonna make more dough than we're probably gonna use today, but I can always keep the leftover dough in the fridge and then make more later on. Now we're gonna pop in 3 cups of flour. You can use whatever you have lying around, as long as it's relatively 3 cups. And for the flour, just all-purpose flour. Fun fact, a singular is pierog. Pierogi is not singular. All right, now we're just gonna mix it all together until it forms a dough that we can actually work with. Certain Polish pierogi recipes will tell you to first put down the flour, make a little hole, and drop your eggs in, and just kind of work it. But my grandma decided we should keep a clean counter until absolutely necessary. Once it kind of gets to this consistency, we can start using our hands, which we did wash previously. And we're gonna work it until it becomes one full ball. If you need, you can always add a little bit of flour because you want it to be a firm kind of dough. You want to knead it until it incorporates all the bits of dough. It's still kind of not a full part, so we're gonna keep working it. As I was saying, my grandma gave me just the recipe for the dough because you can put any kind of stuff on the inside. So in the summer, we cook fruit pierogi along with compote and stuff like that because it's, you know, summer, you don't want to have heavy foods. We're gonna add a little bit of salt, a little bit of baking soda. She just said a spoon. So you can put in about a tablespoon because who knows how big a spoon is. And then of course, a pinch of salt. And then we're gonna work that into the dough. I haven't really had to share it. If someone asked, I would have. You would ask your aunt. You don't really ask your peers. It's my culture. If you like it, you can enjoy it. That's why I'm sharing it now. Polish culture tends to be very sociable. You have people over all the time. You always have food around, and being able to cook with people, it's like a bonding thing that you can do with friends even. We're gonna powder our counter. I have plastic wrap because my counter has little divots in it. And the trick with this is just being strong. Just keep working it until you feel that everything's together. Once you have a nice ball, put a little bit of flour on top. Flour your rolling pin. You're gonna roll them out and then cut pierogi. You want to make sure you turn it every so often. You don't want one side to be thinner than the other. If you feel it sticking, just add more flour. When you roll it out, you want it to be pretty thin because who wants super doughy pierogi? Rule of thumb for me tends to be 1/8 of an inch. This I'm gonna put to the side. I'm gonna continue rolling this part. One time I particularly remember, I was 5 or 6. It was a really nice summer day, so we decided to have a party. We invited my brother's friends, some of my friends, a bunch of family. The day before, we made the dough. And then the next morning, we got up at like 8. She brought me into the kitchen and we started rolling out the dough and we made filling, which was a mixed berry. And then we also had sauerkraut and the potato ones because we knew that some people weren't gonna like the crazy flavors of the Polish cuisine. Which aren't that crazy, but you know. And I remember standing at the kitchen counter and I was like trying to reach over the counter and I would like do my best, but I would like stretch it out too much and there would be like a hole in one and she'd be like, no, let me fix it. So it was like a really good bonding experience with my grandma. She's still alive, she's just in Poland and I can't visit her. All right, so now our dough is pretty thin. We can cut out shapes. We're just gonna use a cup. I just find this easiest. It's just like a really good memory, and then obviously we cooked them, we brought them out to everyone. We had a table in the back, in the shade, kids would be playing in the sun. A perfect summer memory. Do our best to make as many out of this dough as we can. Of course, we can always re-roll the rest. And we have our little pierogi. So as you can see, these are pretty thin. We can even roll them a little bit more, just to make sure that we have a thin dough that'll keep our food in and hold enough of it to keep us satisfied. because we're putting stuff in them, they don't have to be exact. You can cook pierogi whichever way you want. You can bake them, fry them, or you can boil them. These we're gonna boil because blueberries have a lot of liquid in them. They can open up if we don't prepare it properly.
She generally boiled them unless, I don't know, if the weather made us feel like we wanted sauteed one. It's kind of anything a grandparent does, like, oh, what kind of pancakes would you like? So it's just kind of like what we wanted or what she felt like doing.
Other ones, like meat ones, those are really good fried. Sometimes you can even boil them and then fry them, then they get extra crispy. So that's good for sauerkraut and mushroom or cheese and potato. Technically, in Poland, don't really have cheese and potato ones. That's kind of an American concoction, which is fine. I mean, you can always make your own versions. My favorite is definitely mushroom. I'm a mushroom kind of person. And I just really enjoy having something traditional because it's hard to find unless you make it yourself here. All right, so now we've made our dough.
In Poland, they're called borówki. So there's like borówki amerykańskie, which are American blueberries. And then borówki, they're much sweeter and they're much smaller, so they fit better in pierogi.
This might be a little bit more difficult for us. So we're going to add in a little bit of sugar and a little bit of flour. Instead of flour, you can use potato starch. We're just gonna put a little bit in so you don't explode while cooking. And then the sugar will just help it cook. It looks like a lot, don't worry, it'll be great. We're just gonna stir it a little bit, make sure they're all covered.
They're just wild berries. I mean, yeah, they harvest them on a farm now, but if you go out into the mountains in the south of Poland, you can find them and they're delicious. They're much better than American ones, but you can't find them here.
All right. Probably the most important part, water. We're gonna take each piece of dough, pull it apart a little bit, make sure not to make any weak spots, and we're gonna start spooning our insides into the pierogi. We're gonna dip our finger in water, put it around one outside edge, pull the other outside edge around it, and mush it together. Some people like to use a fork. I prefer to just use my fingers. There's our first one. You don't want to put too much in them because again, they might explode. They might not have enough room to cook properly. Obviously, when grandma made them, none of them exploded. These might, but that's okay because that's how you learn. A large pot halfway full with water. If you have too much dough, you can always switch out for something else. If you have too many blueberries at the end, just wash them and eat them. But nothing goes to waste in the Polish kitchen.
There's a recipe my mom still loves to cook. That was my grandma's recipe, and it's beef tongue in horseradish sauce. So one time my grandma was like, oh, you really like this meal. We should make it together. I almost became vegan that day. I don't know if you've ever bought beef tongue at a butcher, but it does not look appetizing. There's definitely a difference between me and my grandma's reaction of the store. She explained it in a way to me that didn't freak me out as much. Like we use every part of the animal, like you can't just throw out the tongue, like you can cook everything. If you live on a farm and you've been through 2 wars, all that kind of stuff that my grandma's been through, you learn to use everything and you know this isn't gross, this is edible and we can make it taste good. So I remember cooking that with her and it shifted my mindset on what food is. It kind of made me realize you don't have to be grossed out by food. As long as you cook it right, you're not gonna die from it.
Obviously, I had to translate the recipe if I want to share it with anyone because my grandma only speaks Polish. I like sharing food and I like being able to show people different cultures, especially if they're not used to it. And I know a lot of people don't know that you can make fruit pierogi. They're perfect for the summer, delicious, incredible. Any fruit works. You just gotta be careful. Now I'm just rolling out the rest of our dough as we wait for water to boil.
I think that's part of an oral history kind of recipe. If that person's there teaching you and showing you, they're kind of just like, once it looks right. And you're like, what? And they're like, yeah, if it looks like this, you're fine.
It looks like our water is almost boiling. So I made all of these and now I'm just pressing down the edges just to make sure that they don't fall apart. You can use a fork to kind of make sure that they stay down. I just push them down with my fingies. Especially these little end bits. Those need to be pressed down very well. See, now they're kind of taking shape around the edges and kind of look more professional. The water is boiling. I'm gonna use a spoon with holes in it just so we can mix without things falling apart. We're gonna try to pop at least half of them without splashing ourselves. Pierogi are supposed to be cooked until they float, but because these are fruit ones, there's a lot of air inside them, so we're just gonna go with our gut. We don't have to scrape them off the bottom. They're not sticking together, and now they just have to cook. You want to make sure that you press them down a little bit so all the dough gets cooked. So they are a little bit big, but that's okay because they're homemade. I'm gonna give it a few more minutes because you can't really overcook them. You want to make sure to get as much water off them because otherwise they'll stick together on your plate. You can see this one already exploded a little bit, so there's some juice, but that's okay. It's gonna be delicious either way.
It was the first time I was using my grandma's recipe without her there. I was just kind of going with it and it worked out really well. But I'll definitely try it again because I know some of my friends want some. So.